Hello everyone, I'm the Professor Z, and today is yet another fantastic day for anime because after such a long period of waiting, Made in Abyss has finally received a Season 2. And we aren't going to waste any more time as we jump into the review of Episode 1, titled The Compass Pointed to the Darkness. Now, I had originally planned to point out how this episode differs from the manga, just as I had with my Overlord review. However, since the entire episode veers off the tracks of the manga from the very start, I'll summarize the changes right here. As far as the actual content of the episode is concerned, nothing has really changed. Where the real differences lie is in the order in which the story is told. In the manga, we aren't told the story of the Suicide Corps until way later, but it seems that the anime has decided to tell their story simultaneously with Team Rico's. I look forward to seeing how this impacts the story as the season progresses. But with that out of the way, we start the episode with a very familiar compass in a very unfamiliar place. It's here where we meet Vueko, and we learn about her past of parental abuse at the hands of her adopted father. I would imagine that most anime onlys at this point were quite disturbed by this, and I wouldn't freaking blame you for that. Akihito just seems to love mentally scarring every single child that enters his story, and some of them physically as well. As we progress through Vueko's backstory, we learn of the origins of the compass, and how it was found by her father on a smoking ship. On that was a smoke-billowing corpse, despite any flames, a writhing corpse split in twain, and a corpse whose insides had been torn out. Amongst these corpses was but one man, who with his last words warned of the compass's final destination, a man-eating hole which led to the center of the earth and a golden city. We then get some flashbacks in which Vueko with the compass seems to have escaped her father, met with Wozukian, and trained to go on this mission she now finds herself on. Vueko is then overcome with seasickness and heads back to the deck to relieve herself. We then get a glimpse of 16 ships, which shows how big of an expedition this is, and how strained resources might be. Heck, Wozukian is eating bugs that he found below deck. Though I feel like he'd do that even if he wasn't strapped for supplies. Despite his weird habits, Wozukian seems like a pretty chill guy, even comforting Vueko while she's sick. We then learn that Vueko is one of 3 sages of Ganja, which is pretty much just a fancy term for one of the 3 leaders on this expedition, the other 2 being Wozukian himself and Bailiff. Bailiff seems to be the brains of this trip, frequently handling translations among other things. He then talks about how the crew kind of views Wozukian as a sort of prophet, since he's frequently able to foresee events that have yet to happen. Vueko questions Bailiff if she has any right to be a sage, since she lacks any kind of gift like him or Wozukian. Bailiff then explains to Vueko that beauty is found in the eyes. No matter what challenges you face, as long as the look of affection and longing remains, you'll always remain beautiful. He then goes on to tell Vueko that since her eyes are dark, that she must fix them upon the darkness in order to find the light that no one else can find. Vueko is then called away to help treat a sick crewmate. We then cut to a later point in time, where due to a massive storm, all but Wozukian's ship has sunk. As things seem lost, however, Vueko pops up from below deck, brandishing the compass, now pointing straight down. Despite all odds, the lone ship reaches the island where the abyss rests. The group proceeds to travel deeper into the island, where they're met by the native people. Though hostile at first, thanks to Bailiff's translations, the group's able to communicate with the people. It appears that Wozukian's group wasn't the first to ever come here, and due to the previous explorers' actions, the natives are tight-lipped. However, the elder Bailiff is speaking to is willing to assist them in exchange for the compass, calling it the form of essential part. Shockingly, Vueko is more than willing to give it up if it means continuing her search for what she seeks within the darkness. The group now gazes into the abyss, learning that the golden city they seek is known by the locals as the capital of the unreturned, which is how it would be known many years later as well. Vueko then meets Iryu Mui, a young girl who has been marked for banishment into the abyss due to her inability to bear children. Vueko, probably feeling kinship towards Iryu Mui due to her own inability to bear children, and was also once thought of as useless, pleads for her to join the group. Wozukian casually agreeing since they'll need a guide anyway, so why not her? The group then begins their delve, and quickly learns about the curse as one of their members is inflicted by its effects. This doesn't deter the group, however. Heck, it even excites Wazukian. We then get some backstory about the group, learning that they're known as the Suicide Squad, a group rejected by their homelands and by humanity in general, now brought together with the sole goal of finding the Golden City and experiencing the unknown. And with a pretty cool transition, we cut back to Team Rico, as they were at the end of the Made in Abyss film. The group questions what Bone Druid's aims were, him having mentioned the next 2,000 years. However, Nanachi doesn't want anything to do with Bone Druid, instead wishing to focus on the group's new adventure, which happens unexpectedly as the sphere they're in suddenly begins its descent, apparently due to Rico interacting with Prushka. After the craft pushes through the layer of corpses, it takes some time for it to reach the 6th layer, but after some complications, the craft eventually makes it to its destination. We then cut back to the Suicide Corps, who apparently found a Narhede with a white whistle aboard the craft, and were able to use them to activate the craft itself. Cut back to Rico's group as they finally make it, the 6th layer, the capital of the Unreturned. Cut to black, roll credits, and that's the end of the episode. So, as I stated, the story here is ordered differently from the manga, but I don't believe that's a bad thing. Although it may be confusing for anime onlys, I believe that in the long run, this change will help make later events in the story a lot clearer. It also makes a cool mirror situation between the two groups. Besides the story, the animation, voice acting, and sound design is all as clean as ever. So overall, though unexpected, the way the first episode has been handled was very solid. I hope that this level of quality is continued throughout the rest of the season. But that's all for today, everyone. I want to hear what you all think as well. Comment down below about what you thought of this episode, and make sure you subscribe for future Season 2 reviews. That's all for me though. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been the Professor Z, and I'll see you all next time.